How's it going, everybody? Mr. Holton here, and for the last few years, if you wanted a quality, choice-driven role-playing experience, you pretty much had to look at swords, magic, and dragons. Because, well, fantasy has been dominating the RPG landscape for the longest time. But if you're anything like me and your gaming identity was forged in the, let's say, golden era of space operas, galactic politics, and squad banter, well, you've probably been feeling a little bit left out in the cold. But beyond the horizon, things are changing, my friends. Because today we're doing a kind of state of the union for science fiction RPGs. And so I've put together a little list here of the heaviest of hitters, games that actually have the pedigree to be something truly special. And to kick things off, we're going to start with the game that is positioning itself as kind of the security blanket for old school Bioware fans. Exodus. Now, if you haven't been staying up to date with Exodus, you need to put it on your radar pretty much immediately. This is an upcoming third-person sci-fi action RPG being developed by Archetype Entertainment, and the first thing you need to know about Archetype is that they're kind of like a splinter cell of classic Bioware folks. Several of which I've met, by the way, like Chris King, Drew Karpyshyn, and Chad Robertson. Pretty cool guys, I gotta say. Now, the premise for Exodus is pretty brilliant because it's centered on the concept of time dilation. You see, in the lore of Exodus, humanity has fled a dying Earth and found refuge in a hostile place known as the Centauri Cluster. And you play as June, a traveler tasked with exploring deep space, infiltrating ancient celestial structures, and stealing advanced technology to give humanity a fighting chance at survival against the Celestial, a kind of hyper-evolved version of humanity that, well, they aren't really human anymore. They probably stopped eating carbs. But because of time dilation, we get a big narrative twist here because you are traveling at near light speeds across the stars. That means time moves differently for you than it does for the folks back home. When you go out on a mission that feels like a few days or weeks to you, decades or even an entire generation will pass for your friends, your family, and the planet you left behind. Now, from a choice and consequence perspective, that does sound pretty insane, doesn't it? Because this isn't some game where you choose whether a colony lives or dies in one singular cutscene. No, in Exodus you might go on a short little space flight to save a settlement, secure a piece of technology, and when you finally fly back to base, the companion you were trying to riz has aged 40 years. The NPCs you made promises to are dead, and their grandchildren are now running the colony, dealing with the long-term consequences of whatever the hell choices you made a generation ago, good or bad. Indeed, it's all your fault. Congratulations. Now, Archetype are promising that these time jumps will fundamentally alter the state of the world, changing the politics, the technology available to you, and the relationships with your crew. And speaking of your crew, yes, this is a true squad-based RPG. You'll be recruiting companions from various factions, including genetically modified human subspecies and even hyper-intelligent animals, like that of Salt, an octopus controlling a powerful mech. No, you cannot bang the octopus. Put it away, man. Speaking of which, Archetype are leaning heavily into companion arcs, loyalty missions, and romance options, and if that sounds familiar, well, it should, because it's exactly the formula we've all been starved for years. They've also pulled in some Hollywood star power as the alright man himself, Matthew McConaughey, is actively involved in the project, voicing a mysterious character called C.C. Orlev, who acts as a narrative anchor across these big generational time jumps. So expect a lot of wall leanings and existential quotes. Time is a flat circle. Yes, we know, Matthew, thank you for telling us. Now, visually, the game is being built in Unreal Engine 5, and yeah, the environments look pretty staggering. There will be huge, hyper-detailed alien landscapes, ancient remnants, and visceral, punchy third-person action combat where you utilize both a transforming rifle and unique combat abilities. And hopefully my graphics card doesn't physically melt trying to render all this stuff. Now, the stakes for Exodus are very high. It is an entirely new IP, which means it doesn't have the safety net of an existing fan base, but it also means James Olin and his team haven't been bound by anyone else's established lore. They have complete creative freedom here to make a dark and mature sci-fi epic, and if they can actually stick the landing with the emotional weight of character-driven storytelling, then, Exodus won't simply be a spiritual successor to the games we miss, but it might actually set a new standard for the entire genre. Next up on the list is a project that genuinely caught me off guard when it was first unveiled because the developer behind it is taking the biggest creative leap of their entire careers. Let's talk about the Expanse Osiris Reborn. Now, if you're someone who plays a lot of isometric RPGs, you already know who Owlcat Games is. These guys are the undisputed modern kings of big CRPGs like Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous, and Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. But with Osiris Reborn, they are finally stepping out of their comfort zone as they are leaving the top-down perspective behind and diving straight into the third-person cinematic action RPG ring, citing the classic Mass Effect trilogy as their main source of inspiration. Hell yeah, Owlcat Games. And now, because the beta for this game literally just went live last month in April, which I actually got to play early by the way, we finally have some concrete hands-on impressions of the game. You see, you start the game as a customizable mercenary working for Pink Water Security, and during character creation you can choose your background, that being Earther, Martian, or Belter. Your story kicks off during what was supposed to be a standard shore leave on the asteroid Eros, and naturally everything goes to shit, the station goes into a lockdown, and you get dragged kicking and screaming into a huge solar system-wide conspiracy. Now, in the chaos, you manage to hijack the most advanced stealth frigate in the system, you escape into the great unknown, and start recruiting a crew of highly skilled specialists to survive. Now, mechanically, the recent beta gave us a taste on how Owlcat is blending their tactical roots with real-time shooting. You see, just like Mass Effect, it's a third-person cover-focused shooter, and the game features a real-time with pause system, as you can freeze the action mid-fight to survey the battlefield, swap targets, and command your two active squad mates to use unique abilities. Now, instead of traditional bloated skill trees, your combat versatility is driven by the gadgets you equip. You have nano-insect swarms that chase enemies out of cover, and wrist rockets designed to shred heavy armor, and so much more. Plus, every companion has a unique exploit mechanic, which is a dedicated context button that lets them interact with the environment. Say if your companion is an explosives expert, you just aim at the fuel tank, you hit the button, and watch the entire enemy squad scramble as things go boom. But we all know cover-based shooting can get a bit stale if the writing isn't carrying the experience, and fortunately this is where Owlcat usually excels, and they are leaning hard into the companion mechanics. As expected, your ship serves as your central hub, essentially being the Expanse's version of the Normandy. And between missions, you'll be walking the decks, having heart-to-hearts with your crew, solving their personal side quests, and yes, navigating the romance scene. Your relationships will actively flourish or completely deteriorate based on how you handle the political pressures of the solar system and how you go about missions. And the scale of everything looks pretty fantastic, as you'll be visiting iconic locations like Ganymede, Ceres, Mars, and Luna, navigating through ruined space habitats and high society political strongholds. Now, to make things even sweeter for you fans of the show, Owlcat has confirmed they've brought back several of the original TV series actors to reprise their roles and voice their respective characters. The Expanse Osiris Reborn is currently slated for a full release in early 2027, and I can't wait to get my hands on the full game. Now, let's talk about the next Mass Effect. Now, we've spent a lot of time on this channel breaking down the, let's say, turbulent reality behind the scenes at BioWare, but to understand the state of this game right now, you have to look at how the studio is changing its approach. As we talked about in my previous video, this project is currently being built by a tight little skeleton crew of fewer than 100 people. Now, for a franchise that historically threw hundreds of devs at a game, going this small is a huge gamble. Pun entirely intended. Because project director Michael Gamble is apparently embracing this agile size, even congratulating Sandfall Interactive on their success with Expedition 33, as they famously only had about 30 developers at the studio during the development of the game. It's a comforting thought, I guess. It also means that there are fewer executives in the room to accidentally micromanage the game into a live service dumpster fire. So there is that. Now, the biggest technical victory the Mass Effect team has secured so far is changing engines, as they've completely abandoned the framework of the Frostbite engine and returned to the franchise's roots by building the next game entirely on Unreal Engine. Now, whether this was a smart move remains to be seen, as the Unreal Engine has had its own array of problems the past few years. At any rate, the real reason why the fandom's collective hive mind is racing is the long breadcrumb trail of teasers they've been dropping over the last few years. And while many of these teasers point to some pretty exciting stuff for the future of the franchise, the Mass Effect team has their work cut out for them. Because first they have to deal with the fallout of the Mass Effect 3 endings, where the outcomes mean completely different things for the future of the Milky Way. Essentially, they are tightrope walking over an open volcano with this. But the silver lining is the creative roster that they have assembled, as they have successfully brought back some of the old guard to steady the ship. Derek Watts is back as art director, Parrish Lay is returning to direct the cinematics, and Dusty Everman is returning the narrative design. And to give the development a fresh edge, they've hired Mary DeMarle, the brilliant narrative mind behind Deus Ex Human Revolution, and the award-winning Guardians of the Galaxy game, alongside narrative analyst Michael Tucker. So the pieces are on the board and the veterans are in the room, and the narrative ambition is pretty huge. But as we know with BioWare's turbulent history, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, eh? Alright, let's travel from the edge of the galaxy into one located far, far away to a game that has endured one of the most turbulent and messy development cycles in recent history. The Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake. To say the road to this reimagined galaxy has been rough would be an understatement. When it was initially revealed all the way back at the 2021 PlayStation Showcase, the hype was unreal. But the original team handling it, Aspyr Media, completely fumbled the bag. You see, they spent years working on it, but after delivering a vertical slice demo to the bigwigs at Sony and Lucasfilm Games, the Sony executives were apparently so disappointed with the direction that they put the entire project on immediate pause and fired both the art director and design director. Yikes. Imagine showing your boss a project you've been working on for 3 entire years, and their immediate reaction is to fire half your leadership and seize the hard drives. Truly inspiring stuff. Thankfully though, the game wasn't left to rot, as it was completely stripped away from Aspyr and handed over to Saber Interactive. But then the corporate drama just escalated. You see, Saber was caught under the big crumbling umbrella of the Embracer Group right when Embracer went into a catastrophic cost-cutting frenzy. For a minute there, everyone assumed KOTOR was going to be another casualty of corporate restructuring, but in 2024, Saber pulled off a $500 million divorce from Embracer, breaking away to become a privately owned company and successfully taking the KOTOR remake with them. Since then, the team has been operating under a shroud of secrecy to avoid deflating the hype any further, but we finally got some clarity just a couple of months ago, because in March of 2026, Saber's chief creative officer, Tim Willits, broke the silence in an interview with IGN where he confirmed that the KOTOR remake is still actively in development. And finally, the YouTuber known as 100% Star Wars actually revealed recently that he's played the new Saber version, and apparently he was impressed, saying, "I've seen Saber's KOTOR remake and I'm extremely impressed with most of what they've been building. Having seen both, I think the cancelling of Aspyr's remake with Saber starting from scratch was the right choice. If things continue smoothly, possible reveal this year." So, let's hope he's right, because I can't wait to see what Saber has been cooking up. Alright, now if the corporate drama of the KOTOR remake has you feeling a little burnt out, well, there is another game that was unveiled just a few months ago that might just actually be the real chosen one. That's right, Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic. If you watched the Game Awards in December 2025, your jaw probably hit the floor like mine did during this reveal. Because out of nowhere, we got a cinematic teaser for a brand new single-player Star Wars action RPG being developed by Arcanaut Studios. Now, Arcanaut is a brand new studio, but it was founded by none other than Casey Hudson, the legendary project director of the original Knights of the Old Republic and the mastermind behind the original Mass Effect trilogy. Now, to be clear, this is not KOTOR 3. The team has made it clear that Fate of the Old Republic is an entirely fresh story set at the tail end of the Old Republic era. The cinematic only gave us our first look at the vibe, where we play as a customizable Force user navigating a galaxy on the edge of rebirth. And true to Hudson's classic formula, we are getting a dedicated companion system. The trailer gave us a quick glimpse of your starting crew, which is a heavily armed rifleman who looks a lot like a Quarren, and a sleek security-style droid. Together, they are exploring a starship wreckage before something lurking in the shadows forces our protagonist to ignite her blade. Now, the visual style is already shaping up to be something special too, cause just a couple of months ago in March of 2026, industry legend Pascal Blanche officially announced that he was joining Argonaut Studios as their studio art director. So already this game is most likely going to have a very distinct aesthetic that sets it apart from standard Star Wars media. Let's hope. Now, because the studio was just founded, we're likely looking at a release window somewhere around maybe 2028 or 2029, though Hudson did say that he wants it out well before 2030 because he's not getting any younger. Join the club, man, just look at my hair, goddamn. Now, finally, I was gonna talk a lot about the next Cyberpunk project, or Cyberpunk 2, or Project Orion, as some of you may know it as. But the thing is, we don't really know that much about what Project Orion is gonna be. It is being built in Unreal Engine 5, and according to Mike Pondsmith, the creator of the Cyberpunk universe, he teased that it's set in a setting that is similar to a Chicago gone wrong. Now, to be fair here, he didn't explicitly say that it will be set in Chicago, but, well, it doesn't sound like anything else other than Chicago from what I've heard, but then what do I know? I'm just a filthy European. What we also know is that the next Cyberpunk game is probably not going to come out for a long time, as CD Projekt Red are obviously focused on both the next expansion for The Witcher 3 that is coming out next year in 2027, and as well as Witcher 4. So my own guess here is that the next Cyberpunk game is probably going to have to wait until 2030. So it's going to be a long wait for the next Cyberpunk game, but as you may have seen from this list of games that I've talked about in today's video, we are going to be eating well in the not too distant future. And yeah, that's about it. Do let me know which one of these games you're most excited for in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because if you love RPGs, well, then this is the place to be. Have a great day. Mr. Holton, signing off.